Okay, to help us understand better how Atra accessor works internally, we're going to replace our Atra accessors with instance variables. Taking a look at my previous code, let's replace each of these Atra accessors one by one. We'll start with the name getter. We'll start with the name setter. Here we're going to define a method called name equals, and the equal sign is actually part of the method name, but Ruby handles this in a special way. For example, in the constructor up here, we've got self.name equals. That's actually calling the name equals method. And when we call an equals method, of course, we need to pass an argument to it. So this will be the name that we want to set on this user object. When we set the name on the user object, we're actually setting the instance variable to the argument that we pass to the method. Secondly, I need to define the getter method. So that is to retrieve the value of name once it's been set. I'll define this method simply as name and return the name instance variable, remembering that the return keyword here is optional. So here you can probably see why it's useful to have instance variables return nil even if they haven't yet been set. In this case, if we haven't set a name on the object, we'll just get nil back rather than an error. Finally, I'll remove the name argument to my Atra accessor. Now I can repeat the process with the other two attributes. Now I can remove my Atra accessor line entirely. I like to keep the constructor, the initialize method, at the very top of the class. It gives me an idea of how the class will be used in most situations. There's no requirement to do this, but it's a good convention to follow. So for the most part, this is just an exercise in getting you to understand the behavior of Atra accessor. But actually setting your own getters and setters can have its uses. Let's imagine when we set the name, we actually want to call downcase. This would ensure that when we store the name, it's always in the downcase form. An Atra accessor doesn't allow us to do that, but by defining our own setter methods, we can override and enhance the behavior.